Hello, good morning. Welcome to New Forest Morphs. Jared and I have been doing a lot of sexing of the animals today. We're getting ready for launching our Morph Market account and relaunching it. And we've taken some lovely pictures. We've got some good news on the sexing. We've got quite a few females in some of our projects. And some of them we've got more males. So it's going to be a question of balancing out what's going to become available. Obviously, a lot of people out there are seeking females for their projects, and we'll do the best we can to look after those customers. But it does mean that with some of the projects we are restricted on to what we can make available. Others, there's more opportunities. So today we're going to discuss some of the projects that we're getting into in the new season. I think Jared and I are excited about the Highway Clown project with multi-combos. So we're going to bring out Bella, let you know how she's progressing today. She's our Orange Dream, Yellow Belly, Leopard, 100% Het Clown girl that is almost up to size now. She's one of our pickier eaters, but yesterday on the feeding, Jared, we did really well, didn't we? We fed quite a few of our girls. Pistachio took her first meal. She is just come off those eggs, and so that was good to see. And also we had some other girls that took food. So one of them was Bella, which is Jared's project, and that's good to see. And we've got some other projects that we're developing that are doing really well, and they fed well. Jared, how did the babies feed? Because we were focused on clutches 20 to 25. How did you get on with the feeding?
I've got about half of them on food,
which is really good.
Anything red hasn't eaten, anything else has.
So you can see that there's still half that we're going to encourage over the next 5 days or so.
But they're making the right moves.
Yeah.
So.
And we had some really good news because you sexed the blackhead lavender. And I'm just trying to think. The blackhead lavender het pieds taking their first meal. So that took its first meal yesterday, Jared. And you sexed her, and she's a female, isn't she?
Yeah, this one's a girl.
So she's starting to show her beauty off. And the 3 blackhead lavenders that we hit, we've sexed them. We've got 2 girls and 1 boy, and so it is the perfect ratio. That's called a 1.2. so when you're breeding snakes, when you see like 1.2 or 1.3, the first point, which is number 1, represents how many boys you've hit in the clutch, and then the second point is how many girls you've hit. So a beautiful example of the blackhead lavenders. And I know there are 1 or 2 people out there that we're connected to that are interested in this project, and I think Jad and I have just been lucky enough to hit 3 of them. We've got a male and 2 girls, which is the perfect opportunity to breed super blackhead lavender pieds dreamsicles. So I don't think anyone's produced a super blackhead in a dreamsicle, Jad, and I think that could be stunning. So we've got to make a decision whether we make one available or whether we decide to keep the 3 as our projects. And that's something that I think we're going to discuss a bit further. We've got to work out also people that want to buy them. We've got to find out what they'd like to do with them, because part of this hobby is also, when you do release a holdback, I think it's building a relationship with the community, that you could say to them, for example, if I was to sell you one of my holdbacks and you took that holdback on board, what would you do with it? Where would you take your projects? Because 3 years down the line, or even 2 years down the line, if a friend of yours decides to take on one of your animals and puts, let's say, a dreamsicle boy that's carrying gravel in it, for example, or it's carrying another genetic that we want to get into, what you do is you do like a loose collaboration. In other words, that when you sell your best animals to friends, you can find out what their projects are and actually work together as a team. So in other words, you can then bring in extra codoms that you want to bring into your dreamsicle project. So you have 2 or 3 friends that are working a similar project, but they may have other genetics that you would like to get into, and then you start doing trades. So this is an area of the business or the hobby that I think is a lot of fun. It does involve a lot of trust, building up friendships, but that's how you can progress your projects, because together we are better in a unified team than we are individually, in my book, Jared. And I think a lot of breeders out there who are really switched on and wise, they cultivate trusting and working relationships with other breeders and say, look, if I sell this particular project to you, what are you planning to do with it? Can we work together going forward in terms of if you produce something which is of a particular interest to us? And vice versa, there might be other things that we're going to be doing with these animals that might interest the person that's buying. So you take a more of a long-term view on how you're doing things, and I think that's an important thing to factor into when you decide to release a high-end snake. Okay, Joe, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a sensible way of going, or what are your thoughts, Jared?
Yeah, if you've got someone that you've built a good trust and relationship with,
Yeah.
it's a great way of moving forward.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to the trust, and it comes down to making sure their collection's clean.
Yeah.
Making sure you're not going to get any infections or anything.
Yeah. So it's important that you kind of share the same high standards of husbandry if you're going to do something like this. But I think it's important that, you know, part of my instinct says hold on to the 2 girls, because one of them only, you know, we've had so many projects where we've had 2 or 3 girls, only one of them went. And the reality is that not everything goes. So if you've got 2 girls and 1 boy, you've got almost double your chances of producing super blackhead dreamsicles. The other thing is, with a boy, we can plug that boy into some other projects to bring the blackhead in, and we want to bring the blackhead into so many other of our projects. So having a boy is a fantastic asset. We did look on the internet to see what the prices were, and when we're pricing up an animal, I think it's important to see what the market is currently running at. And I think there's only one blackhead lavender out there that we could see, which I think is het for dreamsicle, which was a Justin Kabelka, and he's got one out. There's one animal out there, so they're quite rare. And obviously you've got to factor into, the other thing to factor into is that even though some of these bigger markets might be slightly less than the UK market, you've got to realise that there might be duties and excise and duty payments. There may also be the cost of transporting that animal over, plus the long trip that they have to take as well. You've got to factor these things in, but also you've got to look at the quality of the genetics. So I think when we're comparing prices with European markets and with UK markets and other markets, you have to factor in the locality of the breeder, the relationship you have with the breeder, the transportation costs, the excise costs. So there's lots of things to think about. Now obviously we want to pitch the price fairly to our customers, and often we'll offer a discount if we sell several snakes to you and you've got a long-term relationship. We'll often discount those animals to build a relationship, and I think that's a fair way to go, Jared. So we have been doing some pricing today, and Morph Market is a good place to be, but you've got to factor in all these other factors as well to try and arrive at the right prices. And some breeders basically, which annoys me a little bit, because there's breeders in Europe particularly that won't put a price on their animals, and they say basically inquire, and I think, oh, if only I knew what that was. Do I make the call to find out what's going on? And I think I prefer not to have an inquirer on that. Do you find that frustrating, Jan, when you see an animal you like but you've got to inquire?
I think it depends on the genes. Like if it's a new gene or a gene that's not widely available, I think it's smart to have an inquirer so you can talk to the person, get an idea.
Yeah.
But when it's just a couple genes that are already available, it can be a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But each to their own.
Okay. So I think we've been talking a lot about pricing, talking a lot about the process we go through. What we should really do is bring out some snake candy now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the cinnamon cinnamon clown, multi-combo clown clutch that we've got here. And let me just bring a few to here. Now we did hit one female, which is a pastel clown, and it could have something else in it. And we show you how beautiful this is. It's about 80 grams at the moment. It's had 1 or 2 meals, so I think it will take another 3 or 4 meals for it to get up to size. But it is pretty. The pastel clowns are pretty. We think there could be something else going on in here, Jared, but we're not sure. But we will price it as though it's a pastel clown. So when it comes to pricing, and I suppose this is a good issue because it's very topical, everyone's thinking about how do we market, how do we price, is the top breeders take the view that you price the animal as though it's not carrying the gene, and then it's a blessing if you get the extra gene. And I think that's always a nice surprise. There's nothing worse than selling an animal and over-gunning what you've got. Somebody spends 3 years building it up, then they plug it in and they think, oops, I spent 3 years building this and it's missing one of the most essential genes that I was hoping was in there. So I think it's always good when you come to pricing to be prudent. Say yes, it's possibly this or possibly that, but don't actually necessarily charge for that possibility, particularly if you're not 100%. I think it's best to kind of be prudent on that and give someone a nice pleasant surprise that if they do breed it out and it proves to have an extra gene, that's a bonus. Would you agree with that, Jared?
100%.
So there is that's one female we've got on that clutch, and we've also got on the pastel cinnies we actually hit 3 male clowns, so we've only got the one female in that clutch. but we do have 3 males. Now this one here I think we're going to hold on to, and we can contrast. If I bring this one into here, Joe, let's just contrast and see the difference. So now they are both eating pretty good. They both had several meals each, so I think in terms of their size, Jared, they're starting to put on a bit of weight. So here we have a pastel cinnamon lesser clown to your left, and then to your right you have a pastel...
Well, it's to their left.
Oh yeah, sorry.
This is the pastel cinnamon clown.
That's the pastel cinnamon clown. So you can see what lesser does, and pretty animals. But they're both males. So what we'll probably do, Jared, is we'll probably hold on to this one.
Yeah.
And then make this one available, do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And we are short of some breeder males anyway, so even though the odds seem to be stacked against us in this clutch, it's funny how it can work out to your advantage, because you know, when you're short of a few breeder males, it's nice to have some extra males going into the collection. So we'll hold on to this one. This one will become available, so if anybody would like to get into a visual cinnamon pie, this boy will be available.
Clown.
Clown, sorry. Yeah.
There is one other clown, but it's a normal clown.
Okay.
It's a male as well.
That's a male as well. So
That'd
we
be
do have
available.
one male clown that's eating particularly well. It's got a lovely head stamp, Jared, but it's a male, and it's a pretty little boy. And again, that one will become available. So that's how things go sometime. Yep, that's how things go. Once you sex them and you work out what you've got, they don't always come out the way you're hoping. And like I said, this was very male dominant. Now there is another theory about why you end up hitting more males than females, and it's all to do with the temperature of the rub systems that you're running. And the higher the temperature can affect the sexing prior to ovulation. So in other words, I think the theory, Jared, is that a certain species, let's say a certain sex, is slightly more tolerant to heat. And I can't remember if it's a male or a female. I don't know if you can remember, Jared. But
I don't remember.
let's say, for example, if the male can tolerate more heat, and let's say in your rub system, you're getting spikes and you're getting slightly higher temperatures than you were anticipating, that could actually kill some of the female making sperms in the male. But the males could be stronger, or possibly more resilient to heat. Now I might have got it completely wrong, it could be the other way around. I need to look into this, Jared, but if you ended up with clutches that are either heavily male or female dominated, it could very much do with the temperatures that you're running, which can affect the sperm development, whether they're male or females, and what survives when it comes to the ovulation. So I think if we're getting very heavily male dominated clutches, we need to look at our temperatures, Jared. And some people drop their temperatures down purposely to get the right the right sexing, or some people may up their temperatures if they want a, you know, and I can't remember which way it goes, but if anyone out there knows, feel free to make a comment in the video. We should really do a bit more research, but sometimes we shoot these videos from the seat of our pants, and therefore you're getting very spontaneous thoughts as we go. But anyway, that's that clutch there. We do have some hets, Jared, and that's the other thing, is that if you aren't able to produce a visual clown, you can actually produce a very powerful animal using hets, which could have 3 or 4 or even 5 other genetics in them. And so the other thing to do is to make available the female hets, and if someone's got a male clown, that can still be a very powerful animal, because at least then you're guaranteeing at least 50%, hopefully 50% of the clutch will be clown. So I think we've looked at some of our babies. Now the other sexing we've done, Jared, is we've also sexed the Batman clutch, haven't we, to see what we got on that side. And we got lucky, and this time we got a couple of female visual clowns, and the ones we've got are these two here, which I think have vanilla in them. They're both spot nose clowns. So this one here is a vanilla lesser pastel spot nose clown, and she's had about 6 mils, no more than that, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mils.
Yeah,
she's way over 100 grams, but she's very pretty, and we were very lucky to get a female there. So that will be our holdback. So that will allow us to get into the Batman project with more certainty, because having a visual combination will increase the odds when we plug in, say we plug in Hercules to this one, who's a multi-combo leopard clown boy was carrying so many other genetics like Enchi. When she's up to size, if we plug in that one, that would be amazing. But then the other thing we've got to be careful here is that in terms of line breeding and interbreeding, it's very important when it comes to genetics is to bring in new bloodlines. So I think what we'll probably do is end up plugging them into another male that doesn't carry the same bloodline to strengthen that, to make sure that if there's any genetic defects, they don't manifest in the animal. So I think it's important to bear that in mind too, to bring in new bloodlines. This one here has only had, I think, less food. It's a little bit pickier, this girl, but she's going into a shed as well. Again, a female. So what we're probably going to do is hold on to both these girls to help our Batman projects and Pompeii projects going forward, Jared. And like I say, this one feeds really well to your left,
My right.
your right, and then the one on this side is a little bit of a picky feeder. She did show a lot of interest yesterday. She didn't take, but she was showing interest. So sometimes you have to be patient, and
as long as they're still a good size, like if you look at it, she looks great.
Yeah. What we'll do, Jared, is we'll present another meal to her in about 5 days, and I think this is when the 5-day rule's good, because it gives them 4 or 5 days to relax, and then you represent, and eventually they pick up on what they're doing. And also, I've noticed that when we were feeding yesterday, anything that took its time feeding, I was starting to offer. I left the drawer open. I started feeding other snakes, and they could see what the other snakes were doing. Believe it or not. And I think 1 or 2 of them got the idea. Oh, we're supposed to eat these, are we? Because they're seeing one of their fellow siblings eating, and I think that's an interesting way of getting them on food as well. But I think we were really pleased, because how many brand new snakes did we get feeding yesterday, Jared?
I don't remember. It was like 20?
It was over 20, and I think doing that in one session, because each animal could take up to 5 minutes to get to feed frozen.
Yeah, it was a long time.
And the frozen pups help, because the smaller the pups, the better. They were less intimidated by it, and I think that stimulation of giving them a small prey item gets them into the habit of eating, and then you can step up to the fluffs, and I think that's a good strategy, Jared. So I think we will carry on with that strategy. First timers will give, particularly their smaller animals, pups, and then that way we get them into the habit of feeding, and then we step it up. So I think that's enough of that. Put that there. So in terms of the clutches that are coming, we've got this clutch 30 coming in 20 days, Jared. 26th of August. We've got 2 eggs. We've got 1 out of 8 chance of hitting a super pastel Axanthic clown, which is VPI based, and they are stunning animals, Jared. So fingers crossed we do hit one. We'll see what happens there. But that then leads us nicely on to what we're going to do with Curiosity, who's our girl. She has taken a meal several meals since she's given us those 2 eggs. And let's have a look at her condition, and let's have a look and see where she's going. So this is a pastel double het for Axanthic clown, and she's good size, so she weighs about 1700 grams, and that's after giving us a clutch. She will take another 3 or 4 months to get into condition, but we are feeding her decent sized Maltese at the moment, and I think she will get back into condition really well. And I think when she's back into condition, we've got to decide whether we repeat the pairing of last year, which was Galileo. He is a super pastel double Axanthic clown. Now the problem with doing this is that you always have quite low odds, 1 out of 8, or was it 1 out of 16, sorry, 1 out of 16 odds is what you've got. So if you work that out, the chances of actually hitting the Axanthic clown are pretty remote. And I think with hindsight, when we bought these animals 4 years ago, what I should have done is I should have bought a Axanthic boy that's het for clown, and a clown girl that's het for Axanthic, then it would have been 1 out of 4. By doing that, you actually improve your chances. I had no idea that she was going to give us just a couple of eggs, and that's the other thing, is that even if you are hitting 1 out of 16 odds, if you end up with just a handful of eggs, your chances go down. So for new breeders out there that are getting into this, it's worth spending a bit of extra money, I think, to get the visuals if you can. And I think we've got a couple of friends that have asked for female visuals, and I can see the benefit in doing that, because it will give them guaranteed hets, whatever they put them to, but also it gives them a chance of hitting some really wonderful combinations going forwards. Now, the boy that we put her to was Galileo. Let's just see how he's doing. He is a super. I think he's going into shed, Jared, is he? He looks darker. Super pastel are normally a lot brighter than this, but I think he might be going into a shed. He is a very good locker. He's a very good boy. He feeds well. He's a good size, about 1200 grams. Now the temptation is to try again with the same pairing. Is the temptation, and then we are still running with small odds doing that, Jared. But now we've got genetic testing with sheds, there is another strategy that we could adopt, which is, what about if we were to plug in, because they're VPI Axanthic, and there's like 3 or 4 different Axanthics, they're not compatible, so you have to make sure that whatever Axanthic you're working is consistent with your other animals. So Thor, who is going into a shed, he's our VPI Axanthic boy, and you can see he's good size. Look at that deep shed. You can see those blue eyes, Jared. So he'll be shedding out soon. What I'll do is I'll give him just a little bit of extra water. I think that helps him shed out a little bit better. And if you look at him, Jared, he's already given us 1 clutch, and we've got that clutch is feeding now as well, Jared. You've got them feeding, at least 1 or 2 of them, which is good down here. They're beautiful animals. If we were to put Thor into the VPI Axanthic double head girl that's got pastel, what would we potentially hit there, Jared? What would be the target if we put those 2 together?
You get Axanthics that are 100% het for pied and 50% het for clown.
Exactly. So one of the steps we learnt from Justin Gabelka is, rather than go for double visual straight away, think about the long-term projects that you want. So we're going to go for like 3 recessives, and so what we could do is we plug in that boy to her. We can produce, half of them will be VPI Axanthics, so we're starting to see a visual. We can shed test those ones to see if they're carrying the clown gene, because she is 100% het for clown, isn't she? So that means that half of them will be 100% het for clown, if that makes sense, and then they'll all be 100% het for pied. So we end up with a visual VPI Axanthic, and on shed testing we could get a double recessive het, which will be Axanthic clown. That way, when we use the future breedings, if you've got 1 visual with 2 hets, your odds come down from 1 out of 64 to 1 out of 16, which then makes the triple recessive a lot more doable. Plus, we've got the chance of getting pastel in there as well, which I think you need pastel with the Axanthic clown project or the Axanthic pied project. I think it makes the whole thing pop. So one of our options, Jared, is to put in Thor. What are your thoughts on that, Jared? What would you say? Was it a possible idea? Yeah. I think it will actually improve the opportunities going forward and start to give us more VPI Axanthics, which I think would be very useful. Are there any other males that we could put into that girl that would be of benefit? Now we've got Bingo here, who by the way is doing particularly well. He's had a meal last night, and you can see he's now putting on good size. In fact, I'd like to weigh him, Jared, just to see where he is. But if we were to put him into the Curiosity, say, she's carrying the clown gene, so half the animals are going to be clown. All will be guaranteed to be het pied, but you'll get leopard and banana in there as well, plus you get
Possible het Axanthic.
possible het Axanthic, so that could give you a multi-combo 3 genetic as well. So let's just see what he's weighing in at now. I'm hoping that he's over
Flip it round.
700 grams now, hopefully, Jan, is what I'm hoping for.
Zero that out.
Yep. Okay.
Oh.
So it's low battery, is it?
Sometimes you just gotta like...
There we go. It's okay now. It doesn't really matter if it's on... There we go. I'm guessing about 700.
Need bigger scales.
658.
That's
so
with him touching that though, so
okay.
I think you're looking 800 probably. Him in that.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah?
No.
So, okay. I think about 670.
693.
So I said about 700.
Yeah.
So he's
well.
about up to size for breeding at that size. We'd like to get him up to about 800 or 900 before we start breeding with him, Jared. But I think that could be another option. Are there any other options, Jared, that you can think of? I think there are two possible boys that we can put in. We could put in a visual clown as the other option, so we could bring Hercules in. And Hercules is a multi-combo clown. Now, can you imagine, he's going into shed as well, and he's eating well. We're building them for the end of the season. There we go. Yeah, he's going into a shed. So we've got Inchy, Lesser, Leopard
And pastel.
and Pastel. Now if we put that into that project, half will be clowns, but then you have Inchy going into the project. You'd have Leopard going into the project. And Inchy and Leopard could go well with the Axanthic project, particularly Leopard, because the darker the gene, that can really help that pop.
And the pastel.
And you got the Pastel. So
And lesser.
this is quite a good exercise, Jared. As we go through and look at each of our females and look at what options we've got, we can see what we would like to go for. And I think it's a question of really, this is the time, guys, to kind of go through your genetics, see whether you need to bring in a boy, see what you can do. But I think that's going to about wrap it up for now. I think just to let you an update on how that snake is doing from yesterday, we've realised that it is actually a liver issue and it is genetic, which means there's not a lot we can do, unfortunately. So I suspect that the way the vet's going to go is going to euthanize it. But we'll see where things go and give you an update nearer as we get going. But hopefully everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you, Jared, for your love and support, and we shall see you next time. Bye bye for now.